get this party started.
He's shining a light in the dark corners of our media.
You are fake news.
Our government.
Handling of classified documents.
And our culture.
Don't trust anyone.
It's common sense amidst chaos.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Here's your host, Ike Wingate.
Hello, dear friends. I am glad you are with us today as the Epstein, air quotes, files have been made public. And I don't think they had the effect that the liberals expected them to have. I would argue, actually, that they have backfired bigly. And there are so many things in them that you can disprove as far as just emails back and forth, specifically related to Trump. But the people that are actually in the emails, the people that are sending the emails, is more damaging to the left than any of these mentions of President Trump. It's actually quite laughable. And so we're going to show you some of that. Of course, the government is back up and going now with the shutdown ending last night. And the reprieve is only going to last for a few weeks because we are going to be right back into this debate on the shutdown and funding the government, etc. So get ready for that. Also, Senator Fetterman has been rushed to the hospital. And so we're going to talk about that, as well as Gavin Newsom implicated in an interesting corruption scheme. And then you've got the J6 Pipebomber saga continuing. So we're going to get into all that. As David Sling has pointed out, I'm wearing the TPUSA Well Done, Good and Faithful Servant shirt in honor of Charlie Kirk today. If you like what you're seeing so far, or you hope to see something you like and you want to let other people know about it, please like, share, and subscribe to what we're doing here. Follow me on X at Ike Wingate. You can hit the thumbs up if you're watching on Rumble and repost or share. And if you're watching on X, heart the post and repost. Please do that right now as we get into the program. So a lot of stuff coming out yesterday related to the Epstein files. But another big thing that happened yesterday is the House voted to approve the Senate bill, which I guess you could argue there was a poison portion of that bill that allowed senators to sue the government for $500,000 for the spying on them. Now, I understand. I mean, you know what I mean? But should it be about monetary gain and more so legal accountability? Because that still comes out of taxpayer monies, right? So Speaker Mike Johnson said, hey, we weren't even aware of that till the last moment. I'm kind of irritated about it, and we're going to repeal that. But we had to go ahead and approve this as is because we didn't want to take a risk sending it back to the Senate after all the weeping and gnashing of teeth that went on from some of the left. And so the government is funded through the end of January. So we'll be right back to having this conversation probably after Thanksgiving, if they even come back. But obviously it's been, nearly 2 months. Thank you, David Sling, for reposting the live. It's been 45 days, a month and a half, with the shutdown, and the House, didn't meet that entire time, which is kind of crazy, isn't it? And so they should get back to work. I mean, you could argue they wanted to put leverage on the Democrats to get this thing done. Some say the House didn't want to reconvene because as soon as the House convened, they were going to vote to release the Epstein files, right? But, I mean, I would argue that they should have been working. I understand if they're trying to put leverage, but they could have been teeing up a bunch of stuff, don't you think? I don't know. But nonetheless, this was the scene last night when they finally voted to go forward and fund our government. Listen to the yelling and screaming going on from the left. I mean, look at this. You can't really see it on the old C-SPAN cam, but you can sort of see people looking over. They're like screaming, "No!" I mean, these liberals, they get triggered and they scream and yell. That's I guess their natural response to something they don't like, right? And we've obviously seen that before, have we not? Yes, we have. All right, so we get into the Epstein saga is where we're going to go next. And there's a lot to it here. Okay, so the big one, and let me know what you think about all of this stuff in the comments. Give me your take on what you think is a big deal about these things, your impression of the release of these so-called files, etc. We want to hear from you in the comments, okay? And also don't forget to like, share, etc. So these Epstein Maxwell emails reference Virginia Giuffre. Allegedly, she had some involvement with Prince Andrew, who's now just the Duke of something or another. He's no longer a prince. We strip you of your princehood. And so there were also questions about, President Trump. And at one time, Virginia Giuffre said that he did something or something like that. She later on said, "Wait a minute, no, I actually never saw him do anything inappropriate." So there was some confusion or something, but she testified under oath that she never saw Trump and Epstein together. Right? She said that Trump never acted inappropriately toward her. There was no flirting even. She was never at Epstein's house with Trump. Okay? And, here's part of that testimony. He didn't partake in any sex with any of us, but he flirted with me. This is her talking about somebody else. I don't know who. He didn't partake in any sex with us, but it's not true that he flirted with me. Okay, so this was a quote someone said of her. She said, "No, Donald Trump never flirted with me." Okay, so that's where there was some confusion. But she says he never flirted with her, never partook, of anything. When have you met President Trump, Virginia Giuffre? By the way, she committed suicide, even though she said she wasn't suicidal. That was back in April, which is really odd. But nonetheless, she said she met Trump at Mar-a-Lago. That's where she met him. My dad and him, I wouldn't say they were friends, but my dad knew him, and they would talk all the time. Well, not all the time, but when they saw each other. Have you ever been in Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein's presence with one another? She answered, no. Question: what is the basis for your statement that Donald Trump is a good friend of Jeffrey's? Her response: Jeffrey told me that Trump is a good friend. So again, you have a lot of these allegations or rumors based on what Jeffrey Epstein said about Trump, but they never saw the two of them together. I'm not saying they weren't ever together. Remember, this guy was in the, socially elite circles. He was rubbing elbows with everybody at these events and things like that. And oh, by the way, he also lived in West Palm, which is where Mar-a-Lago is, where Trump lives part of the time. Okay. So you have her testimony, but the email that they released, the Democrats touting this as some kind of big thing, is this email here from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell on April 2nd of 2011. 2011. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, redacted, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned by the police chief, etc. I'm 75% there, whatever that means. Okay, so that's interesting. Who is this person then? And by the way, what was Epstein saying? Was he just lying to Ghislaine Maxwell? And also, remember back during this time, 2011 or so, was when Epstein was kicked out of his club, kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. I don't remember the exact year, but around that time, then President Trump actually, according to someone who was investigating this case, was one of the only people that actually reached out proactively to say, yeah, this guy's not a good guy, and helped with the investigation. He informed the FBI on it. So you would not be hard-pressed to make the case that Epstein was mad at Trump and wanted to get back at him potentially. Okay, so blank, this victim, redacted, spent hours at my house with Trump. He hasn't been mentioned in any of whatever he's talking about, right? Well, who's the victim then? Who are we talking about? Okay, well, we're talking about Virginia Giuffre. Here's the unredacted. By the way, this has already been released, by the way. This was already out there, the unredacted version, but the Democrats specifically redacted this girl's name, and it's right here. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. Really? Well, according to Trump, he didn't, and according to Virginia Giuffre, he didn't as well. So why redact that and release it? Jasmine Crockett asked about that on CNN yesterday. Here's what she had to say.
This is an email from April 2nd. Republicans were saying that victim, Frey, as you know, she died by suicide. She's a very outspoken victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's an email right here on your screen, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's redacted who the victim necessarily, take the Republicans' word, who it is that's redacted. They would necessarily redact someone who is deceased at this.
Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No.
Okay,
but I'm just saying, like, our biggest is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims. And obviously, she wrote a book. She told her truth.
Apologize for the glitchy audio for whatever reason there. But basically, she tried to act like it was the Republicans who did it. It was the Democrats, you idiot. Even CNN said she did not accuse Trump of any wrongdoing. It's because they wanted to imply that it was someone else other than Virginia Giuffre. That's why. Make no mistake. They wanted to present some mystery. Oh, there was someone who Epstein has said Trump had spent hours with in this email. Now, then you ask the question, why would Epstein send that? I don't know. And there's a bunch of stuff as far as emails go that are really weird. And it's like, I don't know if this, they were trying to set a trap, or if the guy was just totally bonkers, or what. Or if it's just this vendetta. And he's sending emails sort of trying to peddle a lie to people that he knows to get them to sort of accept the lie and then regurgitate it. If this guy's a sick, manipulative individual, which he was, all of this would be completely normal for him to try to do as a sociopath. David Sling says Epstein hated Trump after he was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. David Singh says the Democrats shut down the full release. Then they blamed it on the Republicans. The Democrats are flailing and throwing Schumer now BS on the wall and hoping it sticks. You're precisely accurate here, because the whole reason that they're doing this is to take away from the coverage of their failure with the shutdown. I mean, that's what it is. Tim Burchett out of Tennessee said he tried to get this done and the Democrats blocked it, just like what David Sling said.
Hey, everybody, Tim Burchett just left the House floor, and I tried to do a UC, unanimous consent, of tried to get the Epstein files, get it straight to the floor, to cut out all this nonsense. And, and the Democrats blocked it, oddly enough. Now, here they've had it for 4 years, and they obviously, if there's something there about Trump, they would have released it. And now they're all, let's get it out, let's get it out. Well, I just made a motion to bring it straight to the dadgum floor, and they blocked it. They blocked it. So this is politics. It has nothing to do with what's doing what's right. And it's Washington, D.C. to a T. And again, they ought to be ashamed of themselves, but they're probably not. Thank y'all for sending me here.
All right. So they blocked it, the full release. So, I don't know the order in which this happened, because we have some level of release here, right? So was it blocked and then it came back? I don't know. Let's see here. I'm going to ask Grok the order in which this happened, unless any of you guys happen to know. Were the Epstein files blocked? So okay, so the eventual release, they got it done. House Democrats did object to a Republican-led unanimous consent request that would have fast-tracked an immediate vote and release, opting instead to follow the established discharge position process for a structured debate and roll call vote the following week. The objection has been framed by Republicans as deliberate gamemanship to prolong political scrutiny on Trump. And so they want to have a debate. This would have been yesterday. And so then the House Oversight Committee, Democrats, unilaterally posted over 20,000 pages from Epstein's estate, including emails where Epstein claimed Trump knew about the girls he was trafficking. And then the discharge petition completes, a bipartisan discharge petition by passing leadership, reached 218 signatures, all House Democrats plus 4 Republicans, Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz. That can't be right. And Marjorie Taylor Greene. Which will force a vote on the Epstein Files Transparency Act expected next week. Tim Burchett sought an immediate floor action via unanimous consent, but Democrats objected, citing the need for proper procedure. House Speaker Mike Johnson later confirmed he'd scheduled the petition-forced vote anyway, accusing Democrats of delaying to keep the issue alive longer. So I think that's what we're talking about here, is this House Oversight released a bunch, but there are some allegedly more files, and rather than just getting them released now, they want to release some of them, even though I would argue those have already probably been out there, and then release the rest next week, dragging it out as long as possible. So I've got to ask, no, hold on. I've got to ask Grok, you You said Matt Gaetz voted on it. He's not in Congress anymore. Yes, I'm right. Okay, so then who voted on it? Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, and Nancy Mace. That's the other. Those are the Republicans that voted to get on this petition. But of course, Democrats want to drag it out through next week, right? All right. Okay. We feel good. We feel like we understand that a little bit better, hopefully. All right. And let's see what else. Gaetano is saying some things. Let's see. Says it sounds like Epstein was scared of Trump snitching on him and planning on extorting him if he went to jail. But if he had anything on Trump, why kill himself? He could have gotten off. That's a good theory. Yes, and we do have this allegation out there. What about Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, allegedly telling Epstein that if you implicate Trump, you will go free? And we don't even have to be able to prove anything, she said. As long as Trump can't disprove it. Gaetano says Epstein had multiple opportunities to implicate Trump, was even offered his freedom, and still Epstein said nothing. David Sling, Massey wanted to keep the government shut down, right? I really don't know what's going on with Thomas Massey. I mean, I think Massey is a good principled guy. I think the same thing about Rand Paul. It's just sometimes they are impractical with how they want to throw their principles around. And a lot of times it comes across as grandstandy, like it's just for attention. It's not for actual legitimate, authentic principle. Especially with Thomas Massey, where it's like, I'm not going to vote for it's like, well, dude, if you think the government is going to go and balance a budget in 3 weeks, you're crazy. You know what I'm saying? You remember that last time? So it's like, okay, I get it. I want a balanced budget too, but practically speaking, those things take time. Talk about it right now. Get out there right now before well before this stuff is figured out in January. Don't pick a few days before the vote to start digging in. That's my constructive criticism of Thomas Massey. All right, what else do we have from these files? Well, in 2011, there was an email written by Virginia Giuffre. CNN reported back last year that according to the email, Bill Clinton had stopped Vanity Fair from writing sex trafficking articles on Epstein. You remember this? Take a look.
Morning, hundreds of new pages have been unsealed in a lawsuit connected to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The victim alleges that former President Clinton pressured Vanity Fair not to run a story on Epstein. The pages also shed new light on how Epstein's victims were recruited and what happened to them. CNN's Gene Cesaris joins us now. And Gene, we're talking about 900 pages here, so there's a lot to go through. What new details have come out?
Well, they came out last night combing through them. And, this all stems from a 2015 civil suit brought by Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell. And Virginia Giuffre had wanted her story to come out. She wanted a book. And so she became very close with a reporter out of Britain. And this reporter was encouraging her to go to the Vanity Fair magazine, to have them do an article on it. And here is what, in a newly undisclosed email from 2011, Here's what Virginia Giuffre says. She says, considering that B. Clinton walked into VF, Vanity Fair, and threatened them not to write sex trafficking articles about his good friend, J.E., Jeffrey Epstein, so she didn't want to do it.
Okay, so she calls her Virginia Giuffre, even though it sounds like she's saying Dufresne. Anyway, Bill Clinton, according to Giuffre, walked into Vanity Fair, threatened them not to write sex trafficking articles about his good friend. Hey, is this Vanity Fair? Vanity Fair, hey, it's Bill Clinton. I was just wanting to call you up. You guys are talking about writing these articles about this, this stuff where, men with needs take comfort in the arms of young women. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think y'all should write that article, okay? Jeffrey Epstein, he's a good dude, okay? He's got a great plane. It's Alita Express. There's nothing wrong with it, okay? You guys don't need to do this. Was that actual audio from the call? Wow, it's hard to distinguish, reality compared to compared to my impression, right? Yeah, you're thinking it, of course. All right, so what? Well, yeah, they never cared about that. I'm surprised CNN ever ran that. That's actually pretty surprising. Now, another thing that was going on inside this data dump is a New York Times journalist tipping off Epstein. Yeah, to me, this whole thing backfired on Democrats because we already know. We already know. What do we know? I don't know. I got distracted by David Sling's comment there. We already know that Virginia Giuffre has said there was nothing going on. That nothing ever happened with her and Trump. But yet the Democrats released this email that we already have the other email out there where Epstein's talking about Virginia Giuffre, okay? So Democrats think, oh, yeah, we're going to take down Trump. But what has happened is all of these nasty little tidbits of information have come out that implicate people on the left, like this from New York Times journalist Landon Thomas tipping off Epstein about a follow-up investigation by journalists and former NYPD detective John Connolly. So you got this email here on your screen, and it says from Landon Thomas. Let's see. Make sure I get the names right. This is from the journalist, okay, to Epstein in September of 2017. So everything was out by then, right? He's digging around again. Not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version. Was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. I told him I had no idea. I think he's doing some Trump-related digging too, anyway, for what it's worth. So he's being tipped off by this New York Times financial reporter, Landon Thomas. New York Times, big liberal rag. Anybody talking about that? We have more scandals, though. Michael Wolff, a journalist coaching Jeffrey Epstein on how to manipulate a presidential candidate for personal and political gain. Wolff wrote a book, Fire and Fury, Siege, Landslide, which he profited off of Trump's presidency for millions. Now we know that Wolff was advising Epstein during the campaign. Every explosive claim in those books is now under a cloud of conflict of interest. Why isn't anyone talking about this? Why was a journalist coaching a pedophile? Michael Wolff, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Epstein, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Michael Wolff, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. you can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it looks really like he could win, you could save him generating a debt to you. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey's a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Political correctness he's talking about. So you have Michael Wolff, and by this time, 2015, it's pretty evident who Jeffrey Epstein is. And so you have this author, journalist, Michael Wolff, coaching this pedophile, known pedophile at that point. You couldn't say you didn't know at that point. So, again, this is backfiring on liberals and the liberal media. Caroline Levitt fires back at a reporter who suggests Trump committed sex crimes with an Epstein victim during that White House briefing that happened yesterday. Take a look.
Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
Did the president?
Okay, so firing back there, basically saying what I've already said, that Democrats specifically keyed in on her name to redact it, so you didn't know who this victim was, so you would think it was somebody else, someone not on the record who had said repeatedly, Donald Trump was never inappropriate with me. I never saw him involved in any of this stuff that went on at Epstein's place, and that's the end of it. But they wanted to create some level of doubt and mystery by redacting it. Does that make sense? Here, I like this. We've got some leftists in the chat. Can't read the name here. Landon Thomas Jr. is not a liberal politician. He was fired from New York Times due to ties with Epstein. He is a member of the liberal media. That's what I said. I never said he was a liberal politician. Thank you for listening carefully. Then saying that all I'm doing is whataboutism, that none of this exonerates Trump. Okay, then let me flip it around on you. What does this prove? What does this prove? I'll wait, Dr. Rhythm or whatever the heck your name is. These people that don't even have real names on this stuff, probably some kind of Russian bot. But what does it prove? What does it prove when you have an email that mentions Trump from a known extortioner, a known pedophile, a known manipulator and sociopath? You have an email from him that tries to tie Trump to this girl, this woman, Virginia Giuffre or Guffrey or whatever you want to call her, that woman specifically, under oath, repeatedly said, I never had any interaction inappropriate with him, and he was never involved in any of the sex stuff at this house. So tell me then, what is this dump of documents prove against Trump? Please. You can say all day long, whataboutism, but what in these documents proves anything? And if you're gullible enough to think that there is some kind of smoking gun in these documents that implicates Trump, then you have totally bought the liberal talking points, because the Democrats controlled access to these files for 4 years and they did nothing. All while the only people that were calling for the release were people on the right. So it could have been done this entire time. And don't you think, Dr. So-and-so, that if there were actually even a hint of reliable implication of Donald Trump, that it wouldn't have been released before the 2024 election? You think Democrats, I mean, if you think that, then you should automatically have the understanding that Democrats are stupid. Because if Democrats had a smoking gun against President Trump and access to release it, which they did for 4 years and didn't release it, then they're just flat out stupid that they didn't release it before the 2024 election. No. Let's set the record straight. Democrats didn't give a damn about the Epstein files until President Trump said, that's a hoax. That is the only time it ever entered into the Democrat or liberal vernacular. And that's precisely case in point that nothing matters to Democrats unless it's something that they can go against Trump about. And that's your whataboutism. It doesn't matter. They don't care about murders. They don't care about crime. They don't care about the border. They don't care about anything unless President Trump cares about it, and then they're against it. And so the same is true with these Epstein files. They were never mentioned. They were not a priority. And then out of nowhere, it became the most important thing to Democrats because Trump said it was a hoax. Why did Trump say it was a hoax? Precisely because you see these emails of Epstein trying to mention Trump multiple times, and Trump's going, that never happened. This is all tomfoolery. But again, it was never a thing until Trump said it was a hoax. So again, Mr. Whatever your name is, whoever you are, tell me what in this dump implicates Trump. Gaetano says, just another attempt to get Trump. They are still looking for any reason, anything that might be the downfall of Trump. They drool over it. This is so funny. This is what happens when we talk about these Epstein files. All of a sudden, these trolls come to the chat. They're never around when we're covering a litany of other things. But the Epstein files. Yeah, we're interested in those now. Trump pedophile moment. The sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell literally is the one defending Trump. Ghislaine Maxwell is literally the one defending Trump. Okay, what is she saying to defend Trump? Are you saying she's lying, that they're all in this together? What exactly are you saying, John? Okay, here we go. Dr. So-and-so is now a legal expert. Yes, you typically redact victim names, especially with a perp and a place of power. That's typical. You are not smart. I'm sorry. I don't say that lightly. But this email, unredacted, was already released before yesterday. We've already known about this. And we already have the so-called victim related to Trump. She was a victim related to others. We already have her on the record under oath, sworn testimony saying nothing ever happened. Democrats redacted this on purpose to give the idea that it was someone else, but they're too stupid to know or remember or understand that that email has already been released. So what good reason other than deception would there be to redact that? And John says, I'm delusional. Boy. Yeah, see, this is it. John, he's a pedo. What proof do you have? You have Trump derangement syndrome. We have the Epstein leftists all over the place. I mean, you've got to understand the history of this Epstein situation to truly appreciate where we are. Because again, the right has been saying, release the files for years. And I will say this, the way Pam Bondi, the way Kash Patel, the way they talked about this stuff prior to getting in office, and Trump said, yeah, I'll release them. I don't care. The way they talked about it ahead of time, and now the way they're acting now is, okay, there's stuff in here that is absolute nonsense. We are not going to insert that into the vernacular. Now, you could argue from a PR standpoint, that's a bad move because you've already let the genie out of the bottle. And I would grant you that's a reasonable point of view. And if you want to take it a step further, the way Pam Bondi handled it and saying, oh, get ready. And it's like, wait a minute, you released what's already been released. And then it was like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff that we asked for from the Southern District of New York field office where James Comey's daughter is. They've withheld this stuff. They haven't, given it to us like they're supposed to. We just found out. So the whole thing was not done well. Okay? I am not going to defend the way this was done. I disagree with the way it was handled. And I disagree with President Trump coming out and saying it's a hoax and anybody who wants that released is not my follower, basically. Well, somebody was advising him incorrectly because this has been a huge issue for the people on the right for years because they wanted transparency. Okay? And so President Trump looks in these files or they brief him on what's in the files. He's like, that's absolute garbage. Anybody who wants that out there is not supporting me. That's ridiculous. That's why he calls it a hoax. He says it's absolutely not true. And that is short-sighted when it comes to the fact that the general public that's been calling for this release, they're not privy to what President Trump or these others have seen in there. They don't know that it's nonsense because it's been hyped up to be this list of people, which, where that came from, I don't know. It's a bunch of files with a bunch of correspondence and a bunch of people that have been asked about Epstein that had contact with him at one point or another that are in these files, but had nothing to do with sex with underage girls or sex with anybody related to Epstein. But their names are still in it. But the more concerning thing to me is you have all these people helping a known pedo 2011, 2012, 2015, 2017. And it's really, really strange. Bill Clinton, we know I mean, there's no doubt, but you don't give a damn about that. You haven't said anything about that. You just called Trump a pedo over and over. And then you have this strange exchange between Epstein and Obama's White House counsel, Catherine Rumler. Epstein wanted her to speak to the boss. Does that mean Obama? I don't know. You start looking through these emails, and this guy was a freaking weirdo. September 19th of 2014, he told her, this is the White House counsel for Obama, you need to talk to the boss. She said, agreed, but I need to be prepared to say yes before I talk to him. Epstein, understood. It comes down to high risk reward, low risk reward, professional, emotional, and financial. Who knows what he's talking about? She said, most girls do not have to worry about this crap. Epstein, girls, careful, I will renew an old habit. What? Like a total sicko, right? This week, Teal, Summers, Bill Burns, Gordon Brown, Jaglin, Council of Europe, Nobel Chairman, Mongolia President, Hardeep Pure of India, Boris Jabor of Qatar, Sultan of Dubai, Koslin of Harvard. I mean, just random stuff. Icon Black, Woody, you are a welcome guest at any. Also, if you think there are interesting people in town, everyone's here for the climate summit, Clinton Security Council. Holy S, I'm on blank for next 30 minutes. Okay, that's like a crazy person. This is at 7:48 in the morning. Catherine Rumler responds, doesn't look like you're prioritizing your schedule very effectively. How are you going to manage all of that? This is Unga week, so the boss will be in town too. I'll be here all week. You may get sick of me. Just sat down on the train, so can't talk freely. This is really weird. So this is far, later, when it's known that Epstein is a pedophile and a weirdo. And so you have all these people rubbing shoulders with him. Okay. This is 2014. 2014. You want to know when Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago? 2004. 2004. 10 years prior to Obama's White House counsel going back and forth like besties with Jeffrey Epstein. But yet you think Trump is the guy. Here we go. This is where you realize they have no idea what they're talking about. The smoking gun is the documents that Trump and Johnson have been blocking. Okay, what specifically? Tell me, what specifically? Oh my gosh, you people. Zizek says, I'd bet there's Democrats and Democrat donors on that list too. Even more reason they need to be released. Okay, release them. But we're not talking about a confirmed list of actual clients. We're talking about a bunch of names and an investigation. Okay, so if people understand that, release them. I don't care. I mean, I'd rather more transparency than less. But what you're seeing in actual correspondence directly with the dude is some really shady circles. I mean, inside the Obama White House, inside the liberal media, coaching a pedophile. Okay, let me keep going here. Gaetano says if there was anything there, Garland and the DOJ would have absolutely used it to take him out. Yeah, but we know who else those files implicate, allegedly. I mean, we're already seeing it. This guy, I mean, you could have had interaction with Epstein without being involved in this sex ring. Okay. I mean, that's clear. He was just a slime ball and he was leveraging that stuff over some people, but not all people. He was in the middle of a bunch of stuff. So just because someone had a picture with him or spoke with him or knew him, I mean, the way this guy would throw around his jet to take people places. I mean, RFK Jr. talked about that. Like he needed to go somewhere and Epstein was like, oh, well, I'm going down there. You want to come with me? And he was on his plane a couple times. So he was that guy who was like always there at every event and everything. And just this guy who was trying to insert himself into every situation. And because he had money from who knows where, he threw it around to try to gain influence over people. Dr. So-and-so says, I am ignoring the truth that Biden couldn't release it because of a pending case with Maxwell. Okay, then what's changed? What's changed? They could have released this investigation. They could have released plenty of files, and they didn't even actually have to release them. That's not even truly what the point is here. The point is, if there was something in there that implicated Trump, they would have went after it already. That's the point. That's the point. All right. Get back over here. I don't look like Ted Cruz. You guys are blind. I'm much better looking than Ted Cruz, but thank you. All right, here, let's keep going. All right, if you're going to spam, you're going to get kicked out. Let's see here. All right, I'm about to kick this Dr. So-and-so out for spamming the chat. You can't spam the chat. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the chat here. Skipping a lot of stuff. Okay. Okay. David Sling says Trump derangement syndrome is no longer being covered by Obamacare. That's probably why we're seeing stuff. I'm okay with them releasing the files. I am perfectly fine with them releasing the files. Perfectly fine with it. I have no objection to releasing the files. And I think President Trump shouldn't have any objection. I'm just trying to explain to you the reason I believe why he has said we're not going to release this nonsense, because there's a ton of emails and things that don't make any sense that are trying to mention him. Now, we'll go even further. And this is what I'm talking about. Okay. Like this right here. Okay. This is case in point. A 2017 email from what appears to be an Epstein victim. The woman writes, I'm at the door, but I will wait for my time. I don't want to come early to find Trump in your house. 2017. That's kind of weird. I mean, Trump was president then. Okay. Don't you think somebody would have noticed that President Trump was in Paris at Jeffrey Epstein's house while he was president? So again, this is what I'm talking about. This is the nonsense that's in here about Trump that has nothing to do with him. Okay. And so I could understand from his perspective saying, there's so much crazy crap in there that has nothing to do with me. We're not releasing that. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. Now, here's something interesting. Epstein claimed that Hillary Clinton had a sexual relationship with former attorney and White House counsel Vince Foster. Remember, Foster committed suicide in 1993. Back in 2016, he wrote this. Hillary doing naughties with Vince. Again, is there any truth in it? I have no idea because this guy is freaking weird. Pretty interesting, though. That guy committed suicide. You remember that? Okay. And then you have, outlets like the Daily Mail covering it this way. Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman, says the Daily Mail published the most absurd and bizarre article using my photo along a headline implying that I was a bikini-clad girl in Donald Trump's kitchen. I'm curious whether I can sue for defamation over this. Using my photo and likeness is not only defamatory and blatantly untrue, it's wildly sexist. I have never been in Donald Trump's kitchen, and I have absolutely nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. This is targeted reporting, as they did not mention any other members of House oversight. The smears against the president are beyond outrageous at this point, and I'm seeing firsthand how the press lies to the American people. And so the headline, Epstein claimed he had photos of dirty Donald with bikini-clad girls in his kitchen in emails released by Republicans. Okay, and then you got Anna Paulina Luna there. Okay, she's like, why are you implying that I was there? How about that? Okay, other things in this email dump. Jack Posobiec says the Democrats just proved through their own release that Russiagate was 100% a hoax. Jeffrey Epstein said in emails he'd been advising the Russian government on how to deal with Donald Trump, one of several cases in which he wielded his connections to try to influence the course of foreign affairs. So you have this email with Epstein. I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on talking to me. Vitaly Churkin used to, but he died. I'll meet Lavrov's assistant on Monday and suggest, thank you for a lovely evening. I'll come to UN high level next week. Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It is not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple. So you have Epstein involved in in consulting with the Russian government to try to get him. The whole thing reeks of this guy he's going after Trump. He's mad that Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago in 2004. Okay, you want more? How about this? The lie that Trump spent Thanksgiving 2017 with Epstein, despite him having been publicly photographed and documented by the press, spending the holiday at Mar-a-Lago with his family and senior White House staff. Okay? So because of this email saying that Trump was with Epstein, because Epstein saying that, Trump was with them for Thanksgiving, everyone's like, oh, what? They were together in 2017, celebrating together? The dude was the president, and it's well documented the day he arrived and left Mar-a-Lago. And so are you going to say, well, no, he snuck over there? Is that what you're going to say? While he was president, he snuck over to Epstein's house? You've got to be freaking kidding me. At what point do you say, okay, this is a lot of the stuff in this is total craziness? Okay. So anyway, are you still defending it? Are you still think Trump's a pedo because of this? Is this the smoking gun? Is this what you're talking about? Because it's not. It's not. It doesn't look very believable. Yeah. And so Epstein's talking about where he's spending Thanksgiving. And who this woman, Kate's, or this person, Kate's, asks, who else is down there? And he says, David Fizzle, Hansen, Trump. Okay. Likely Eva Anderson Dubin, Epstein's former girlfriend and a Mar-a-Lago member. Glenn refers to her husband, hedge fund billionaire Glenn Dubin, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So Epstein is trying to look to other people like he and Trump are something. Trump's the president at this point, and Epstein is trying to act like he knows him and is still interacting with him, but he was not. We know that is absolutely false, that he was not interacting with him. There is no proof, no record. It's just him telling people in emails because he wants to look cool, but it is easily disprovable, which we have done. President Trump was not hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein on Thanksgiving of 2017. It's absolutely impossible and didn't happen. No matter what you trolls that have Trump derangement syndrome are saying, you have not provided 1 ounce of proof. You're just referencing crazy emails from a known pedophile. So you are siding with a known and convicted pedophile over actual evidence. Think about how deranged you are. You want to believe and take the word of a known convicted pedophile over actual evidence to the contrary. Because why? Because you are so blinded by your Trump derangement syndrome that you would rather, in your mind, think that it's a logical and intelligent argument to cite what a known pedophile is saying amidst all this other crazy crap that he's putting in his emails. What is wrong with you? You have a mental condition if you think this guy is credible, but the guy who is running our country that you don't like politically is making all this up in line, but you're siding with the guy who's a known pedophile, and we know through these emails he wasn't truthful, maybe wasn't right in the head. I don't know. This is delusional. It's insanity. Larry Summers asks Jeffrey Epstein in this email if Trump uses cocaine, and Epstein responds by asking if he can get a private Harvard tour for a Rothschild. What? How plausible is the idea that Trump is a real cocaine user? Response: can someone from the development office show Rothschild around Harvard on Saturday? What? Yes, let's briefly discuss. What? Insanity, okay? Insanity. This is just crazy crap, okay? I know you want to believe it because you hate President Trump and you're blinded by that. But if you had 1 ounce of critical thinking ability, you would recognize that this whole thing is total garbage. Total garbage. And it really actually concerns me for, our society and the gene pool, that people that are buying this as some kind of proof, even though it implicates all these other people because they're the ones in the emails actually writing it, not saying it about somebody else. It concerns me that people like you are in the gene pool. But thank you for coming to my live stream and helping me with the numbers. All right. Let's see here. Mostly Penny says Democrats don't release things, they leak them. Earlier, Mostly Penny says, I'll give it to the Democrats. If they want us talking about something other than their failures, this is working. The people bite every time. And then the people try to ratio me. You don't have that many people watching. Well, we're on 6 platforms. You're on 1. So congrats for that. Okay. So we pivot now away from Epstein. Okay. We've gone through what we've seen so far. There's many examples of contradictions that just don't mesh with reality. My assessment so far is that everything I've read in these things it's just garbage. It's in the mind of a crazy person. And the fact that he was acting like he and Trump were close in 2017 tells you everything you need to know. The guy was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago 13 years prior to that. But when Trump rose into power, then you have all these latchers, these people that latch on. They want to latch on and claim some sort of proximity to power. It happens all the time. But President Trump and Epstein, there's no record of them being in the same place or doing anything together for years prior to 2017. So you go, well, that's one thing, but years ago they were getting with underage girls. According to whom? If it's according to Epstein, then you're saying some of what Epstein is believable, but other outrageous things aren't. So literally you're siding with the pedophile, the guy who is known to be making things up in these emails, as some kind of proof. But again, the dog that hasn't barked is Trump, and the redacted name, which was already unredacted, has been on the record saying nothing ever happened. The actual victim herself. And that's your proof. That's what you're going with. Like, that's what you have. That is nothing. That wouldn't hold up anywhere, which is precisely why the Biden administration and his DOJ and Merrick Garland never did anything with it, because it has no basis with any credibility whatsoever. If you know how they went after President Trump on this ridiculous real estate thing and these other charges with next to nothing, but they still spent millions of dollars in taxpayer money going after him, and it still didn't work. What's in these emails that we've seen is way less than that. Way less than that. So that's reality, whether you accept it or not. I don't expect some people to accept it, but them's the facts. Until I see otherwise, I would actually agree with President Trump and say this is a hoax. Any allegation or mention of Trump in there is a hoax. It is Epstein from the grave pulling a stunt, because nothing can be corroborated. Nothing can be proven from it. It's just some weirdo's emails, but yet you are siding with the weirdo if you're believing this stuff, which is pretty daggum sad. But I really don't care what you believe, one way or another. But don't come on here and act like you can say things like Trump is a pedo when you have zero proof. All right, let's talk about Senator Fetterman. He has been rushed to the hospital after a fall in his home or near his home. During an early morning walk, Senator Fetterman sustained a fall near his home in Braddock. Out of an abundance of caution, he was transported to a hospital in Pittsburgh. Upon evaluation, established he had a ventricular fibrillation flare-up that led to Senator Fetterman feeling lightheaded, falling to the ground and hitting his face with minor injuries. Senator Fetterman had this to say: "If you thought my face looked bad before, wait until you see it now." This is an official statement from Fetterman. I mean, when someone can poke fun at themselves in the middle of something like this, I have respect. He is doing well and receiving routine observation at the hospital. He has opted to stay so doctors can fine-tune his medication regimen. Senator Fetterman is grateful for the EMTs, doctors, and nurses who are providing his care. I tell you what, was somebody trying to take Fetterman out? Because he's one of the only Democrats in the Senate that is making any reasonable sense. He's making the rest of them look bad. He's been going on media recently as Katie Couric tried to get John Fetterman to condemn Charlie Kirk here. Take a look.
Flag should have been flown at half staff. Do you think his body should have been flown on Air Force Two? Do you think he should have posthumously be given the Presidential Medal of Freedom? I think some people felt that that was perhaps over the top in terms of mourning someone like Charlie Kirk. How did you feel about that?
I'd say that was his choice and his prerogative. And that was really entirely up to him.
Did you have any issues now in hindsight over some of the things that Charlie Kirk said and some of the rhetoric he used during his life?
I didn't agree with much of it. I didn't closely follow his specific kinds of views, but I did.
I'm sure you learned about them after his death, though.
No, I haven't done a deep dive on it. We've all seen that terrible video. Perhaps if you've seen the actual video, I have. And it's like appalling. And that's part of the political violence. And from what I'm saying, it's like that's unacceptable. And engaging in a debate and views I strongly disagree on, that's part of the American democracy. And for me, it's that would never justify what's happened, and I just chose not to take the opportunity to argue his views after children lost his father in the most violent public way. I mean, so that's I would say the equivalent on the left might be, say, Mr. Piker. I strongly disagree with his views, but I'm appalled if something like that happened to him. Oh my God. I mean, that's, like we have to disagree in better ways where, you're going to solve it by shooting people. And that's why the kinds of rhetoric, we have to turn the temperature down. Extreme rhetoric makes it easier for extreme reactions or to justify them.
I think some people might say Charlie Kirk's rhetoric was extreme. I think that's the conversation that happened. People condemned political violence, but they also felt a great deal of discomfort with his language, suggesting that these kinds of words lead to violence.
What are you talking about? What was it in his rhetoric that was a problem specifically? Because he said when we stop talking, people resort to violence. I'm trying to prevent that from happening. Oh, his rhetoric. What was so dangerous about his rhetoric? There are two genders. Marriage is a good thing. Faith in Christ is a good thing. Oh my gosh, the rhetoric you're using, it's just because you don't agree with him. You ascribe danger to what he's saying because it is something you don't believe in. It's so dangerous to be a Christian. What did he say that was so divisive from the standpoint of irresponsible rhetoric? Huh? Someone tell me. Well, he said that he doesn't want to fly on a plane with black pilots. Oh, gosh. Really? That's where you're going? If you think that is what he said, start to finish, then you are grossly uninformed. Is that a badge of honor you want to carry around as being grossly uninformed? Because if you've ever actually seen the context of the clip, and by the way, people that take others out of context to justify themselves, that is not honest. It's deceptive. It's not fair. And it's evil. What Charlie Kirk actually said was because of DEI, because we don't know if people are being hired based on merit or not, because there are quotas now to hire X amount of black people, X amount of gay people, X amount of trans people. We never know if it's based on them being good enough for the job or just being good enough, just barely, and they're trans or and they're black or and they're gay or they're Asian, and so then therefore they get the job. His point was, if you're flying on a plane, at least if you see the white pilot, you know they didn't want to hire a white pilot for their quota, so he must actually be good. That doesn't mean black pilots can't be good. That doesn't mean that white pilots are the only good pilots. He was making a point that DEI is a disaster, and it's not something you worry about in, going to the DMV. But when you really put it into a perspective of life or death, someone's flying the plane, then it gets more real for people. And oh, by the way, it's a complete insult to the people who earn it. And I'm talking about the black pilots or the Asian pilots or whatever. It's an insult to them, the ones that are actually good enough, because it casts doubt, because it has created a racist, discriminatory practice in hiring, which is why it was overturned as far as affirmative action after all the things that it accomplished. For a period of time, you could argue it was appropriate. It's not appropriate anymore. And these DEI quotas are discriminatory, and they do nothing but diminish the people who actually earn it, because you have no idea. Did this person earn it, or were they handed it because they were just good enough and they were one of these protected groups? So I agree with Charlie Kirk 100%. At least with the white pilot, I know, because they don't want to hire white people because they don't fit the quota, that if he was flying the plane, he got hired because he was that good. That's the point. But no, the divisive rhetoric to point that out. I mean, people have the attention span of about 20 seconds, and they watch a clip and they think they understand it all, and they have no idea. That's irresponsible rhetoric. That's rhetoric that basically you're implying, Katie Couric, it's sort of justified, like, oh, well, no one should have been killed, but because of the way he talked, you can see why.
I don't know. I'm just kind of sharing my observations as I saw the conversations unfold.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we agree that we probably didn't agree with much of what he said. And I think I'm sure we both agree that you shouldn't shoot people, and you shouldn't execute them in public. And I think that's two things must be true. That free speech, I'm an absolute free speech guy, and you have the right to say these things, and you definitely also have the right not to get shot by sharing your views.
Exactly. So Katie Couric tried to get John Fetterman to demonize Charlie Kirk. It didn't work. And here he is again. It makes you wonder. He's making so much sense. Are they trying to take the guy out? Because kind of weird that he had this episode today. They want me to die, or we're cheering for your next stroke. These are the kinds of things that the left says to John Fetterman. Comparing the sides, you want to know who the nastiest is? John Fetterman, a Democrat, says it's on the left. And by the way, it's not that much of a stretch. He's talking about blue sky. All I have to do is look in the chat when there's some deranged liberals, and they are the nastiest people on the planet.
Write about that in your book. You said, quote, "I've drunk deeply of the venom of both the left and the right. As a connoisseur, I can confirm that the most poisonous, the bitterest, is from the far left." That is pretty remarkable. to hear you say that as an elected Democrat. Why?
Yeah. No, it's just been my personal experience on this thing. And when I asked my digital team, I said, we're on all the platforms, really what's kind of the harshest, what's kind of the most personal. And the answer was immediate. He said, oh, blue sky, it's blue sky. And the difference is, the right would say really rough things and names, some names I won't repeat on TV, but the on the left, it was like they want me to die, or that we're cheering for your next stroke, or that's terrible that depression won. Why couldn't it depression won? And I hope your kids find you. They even have like the graphic, a GIF where they have like a stroke, in your head, cheering at that. Yeah, and they said that. I remember one. They claimed.
This is the left, my friends. This is what they do. And I'm just telling you, I see it in the chat. I'm not going to give it any platform. But you people have no intelligent response. And so your only response is to get nasty and dehumanizing and try to insult because you can't back up your actual argument.
And the doctor let us down. And why did they have to save his life? Just really, like, I just can't imagine. People are wishing, I wish he dies, or I want him to die, literally cheering for a stroke. And I don't know what the kind of a place where that comes from. That's much different than just calling me a name. That's really been consistent, in that community online.
Yeah, there you go. That's the left on Blue Sky. He has been ridiculed by left and right and says the real venom, the real bitterness, without a doubt, comes from the left. And I would say that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. When you can't channel your emotions with someone you disagree with into a healthy way, it comes out as poison. And that's what it is, whether it's words, and for some, they've resulted to violence because they don't know how to deal with disappointment. They don't know how to deal with disagreement, and they sure as heck don't know how to articulate their argument against someone who is arguing the other point. So it comes out in cheap shots, nasty stuff. And it's disgusting. All right. So Zach says that Charlie Kirk was talking about how the United CEO is more focused on DEI. This could drop the standard for pilots. Yeah. Basically is exactly what I said, talking about DEI. And because of the quotas, you don't know if someone is there because of DEI or because they earned it. You don't know. And that's where the danger is. What's the other, divisive thing he said is rhetoric. He made a comment about, and again, thousands of hours of footage of Charlie Kirk. Example after example after example of him treating people with respect and fairness and not getting angry. I found one, maybe two instances of him ever getting angry with someone, and it was one of these Groyper far-right lunatics, and another was, the dude from the Young Turks who's, he apologized to later. That's the only time I've never seen him get angry with anybody in the general public that he was debating from the other side. He got angry with someone, on his side, if you will. But he made a comment about Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and another woman, and said they took jobs away from white people. Okay. You're on a show every day. You're going to say things that are sort of, trying to elicit a response. Some people say, you know, you're sort of trying to be a shock jock, is the way some people used to say it, or you know, you're being titillating or something like that. I mean, you say things to sort of shock people. You're trying to be entertaining as well. But the reason he said it was because, you know, there was all these, you know, complaints coming out of out of Michelle Obama about something. She was complaining about. She's always complaining about something. By the way, I mean, she has a book out basically saying how she was the victim when she was the freaking first lady, and how, you know, so much was expected of me, and I was treated differently than white, you know, people. Whatever, dude. The media freaking loved you. They didn't hold you accountable for anything. But she was complaining about something, and Charlie Kirk commented on it and said something about them taking the jobs of white people. You know, in the context of DEI or affirmative action or something like that. In the whole context, you understood what he was saying, but they just clipped that one part and say he was racist. I mean, the dude was part of organizing the, you know, national Blexit. He sponsored, you know, all black college participants at his events. I mean, there's tons of examples of the guy, and all out coming out and saying, I'm not racist. He never called for racism. He called for a meritocracy. And by the way, it's racist and bigoted when you tell any person of color that they can't succeed because they're victims and it's somebody else's fault and the government needs to do something to rectify it. That's racism and that's bigotry, because you, by saying that, say black people or any person of color can't succeed without the help of the government. They can't do it on their own. It's the soft bigotry of low expectations, as it's been referred to. That is not kindness. That is not love. That is racism. And so Charlie Kirk and I very aligned on this. Very aligned on this. You know, I believe a black person can do anything that a white person can do from a success standpoint, and any other race. But when you go through life with people telling you you're a victim the entire time, you are paralyzed from your full potential. And don't you think the Democrats know that? They want these people dependent on them, and they convince them they can't do it without them. Now, a lot of the black community has gotten wise to this and said no more. Well, the Democrats have a contingency plan, and that's illegal immigrants. Because when you bring people in here illegally and you load them up with free stuff and make them dependent on you and find loopholes that they can vote, then you will always have this built-in voting block. And so basically Democrats have said, well, the black people are not, you know, not allowing us to win elections anymore. And so the last 4 years, they tried to destroy our country by bringing in a mass dependent state of immigrants. And by the way, how's that working out? We got this huge tax on the system from these illegal immigrants. We have people that are being given commercial driver's licenses and are killing people by driving the wrong way or making illegal turns in these semi trucks. They can't even read the traffic signs. Have you seen in these videos, these guys getting pulled over and they don't even speak a lick of English, yet they're driving this massive weapon down the road with this loaded up 18-wheeler and they can't even read traffic signs? Places like California and Illinois giving these people commercial driver's licenses. That's not a problem you have when people here speak English and read English. By the way, talk to any of these truckers, and ever since we've imported the third world, these truck stops and these lots where these trucks are able to park are trashed. A notable difference. So that's just one instance. You import the third world, you become the third world. But again, it's about votes. Then we have all this violence. Rape is very normal in a lot of these countries. But that's what Democrats do, is they side with the perpetrators rather than the victims, rather than the rape victims, the murder victims. They want to create an oppressed group out of these illegal immigrants. That's what they want to do. That is the strategy that Democrats believe wins, is create a protected, oppressed group that we can then exploit for our benefit. But it's not working out. It's not working out. But thank God that President Trump and his administration is getting these illegal immigrants out of this country that are causing a huge strain. By the way, you're talking about affordable housing. You've got a lot of people that are here illegally that are taking up housing. I mean, there's and then what about healthcare? They put a strain on the healthcare system. A lot of these states are giving Medicaid reimbursement to illegal immigrants. That's a fact. So think about, what would the system in the United States be like, whether it's highways, whether it's government services, whether it's medical care, whether it's housing. What would that be like if it wasn't taxed with or burdened by millions of illegal immigrants? By the way, just from an efficiency standpoint, when you have a lot of these people that don't speak English, it creates all kinds of additional work that would otherwise not be necessary. I'm sorry. If you want to be a citizen and live in the United States of America, the least you can do is learn to speak and write the language of this country. Oh, that's racist. That's xenophobic. Really? Why? Because other countries have official languages. See, the United States has been caught up because of Marxist ideology in this point of view that the United States of America has to be all things to all people. It does not. It does not, and it shouldn't be. If you want to come here and assimilate to the American way of life and you do it the right way, welcome. But this idea that we need to change our systems for other countries, why would we do that? We have our own country. We have a way of doing things. This country was founded on Christian morals. It's been totally distorted. You say, well, you know, the Constitution says, you know, make no law making an official religion of the country. Yeah, okay. That's fine, but you can absolutely prove that our Constitution was based on what? The endowment of these rights, these inalienable rights by our Creator. That's what was unique. That is a Christian worldview. All men created equal. No other country did that. You can argue the moral standards and things by which this country was founded were Christian standards. And so that was the flavor. That's what this country was founded on. This is what we are. We speak English. Okay. We're not going to hold you back. You don't have to be born into a certain caste system. You know, you can be more successful than your parents were. If you work hard and you're in the right place at the right time, you do the right things, you can be successful. You don't have to be royalty. You don't have to worship anybody or anything. You don't have to worship a king. Okay. That's the flavor of the United States of America. But Marxism has infiltrated and said, no, that's offensive or whatever. I mean, these states had Christian constitutions. And by the way, this really isn't a country that's meant to be a federal, gigantic, bloated machine. It was actually just supposed to be made up of states doing what they wanted to do. And then, okay, we will get together to help with defense and trade. We're better together than apart. And so we'll establish a federal system. Now the federal system is the tail that is wagging the dog. But these states had Christian constitutions. And so my point is, if you don't like that, if you don't like that the United States of America is founded on those principles, then you don't have to come here. But I think it is absolutely unreasonable to expect that you come to our country and this country should change for you. Well, then what country are we? We have to change everything we are for everyone else. Well, wait a minute. What made us great was saying these are the principles that we're going to adhere to and protect. And that, not perfect, of course. I'm not saying everything that's been done has been perfect. But why are we allowing people from the outside to come and diminish and dilute and distort and divide this country? Just think about it strategically. Throw out all the things that you've been indoctrinated with over the decades, especially in school or this or that or whatever. We're a nation of immigrants, so okay, that assimilate. Doesn't mean you forget your heritage or whatever, but when you come and be part of this country, you're American and you adopt the American way. And that's what so many immigrants did for so long. And obviously that's totally changed. But throw that stuff out for a minute and just think strategically. If you've got a strong team, let's call us a team that is winning with a certain strategy, and somebody says, well, wait a minute, that's not fair. You're excluding people from being on your team. Well, we're trying to be the best of the best. And everybody here has to adhere to this training standard. Well, that's unfair. You have to let people in that have, that have a foot injury. Okay, it's not fair to exclude. And so little by little, they create the fear of being labeled X, Y, and Z. And before long, your team doesn't adhere to the standard of winning. It adheres to the standard of inclusivity, which has totally divided, diminished, and diluted your effectiveness to win. Oh, and by the way, you got all these people that have come into your team and they all have injuries. And so your entire team is bogged down with, a training staff that, is constantly, can never get people healthy. I don't know. The analogy's breaking down, but you see what I'm saying? Just strategically, if you placed this ideology in a different sphere of life, like sports, you would say, yeah, that's ridiculous. So why would that be any different with our country? Why would that be any different from our country? Gaetano says, immigrants used to come here with stars in their eyes. They couldn't wait to assimilate. Yeah. But Marxism has demonized the, American exceptionalism. That's too exclusive. That's not inclusive enough. And so now this is what we've got. All right, let me talk about Jasmine Crockett. It's just been discovered, somebody who's out there acting like, she's had to make her way by pulling up her bootstraps. Well, she's currently using campaign funds for ritzy, glamorous stays at places like the Ritz-Carlton, $4,000, the luxury collection, $2,300, West Hollywood, $5,300, Times Square, $1,100. The Cosmo and Aria Resort at Vegas at $2,000. The Edgartown Inn, $2,700. The Coco, $3,100. Limo service, $2,700. $2,300 for car service. $1,200 for car service. $50,000 for security. Somebody who wants to defund the police, yet she spends $50,000 of campaign contributions on security. That's interesting. So people donate to her because they want her to be, a game changer for them. But she's out here not even trying to conduct herself with any frugality or any level of responsibility. All while she demonizes the rich or the police. The point is, I really don't care that you stay at places like that. I mean, I think it's a bad look that you're staying at the nicest places with campaign contributions. But if you're going to go around and rail against this stuff and do it yourself, you're nothing but a hypocrite. Jasmine Crockett is a character. She's playing a character. She ratchets up the ghetto talk when she wants to. But when you look at videos of her from years ago when she's like in college and stuff, she's, doesn't talk anywhere like that. But yet she ratchets up the ghetto when it's convenient and then, talks like a white sorority girl when that's convenient. I don't know who she is, but she went to private school. Her parents put her through private school, I believe, in the St. Louis area. She lived a life of privilege, but you wouldn't know that by, how she plays this professional victim to try to get sympathy points, which is despicable to me. There's no glory. There's no notoriety. There's nothing special about playing the perpetual victim. See, I like the people who were down and out and became successful. The underdog that won. That's what I like. Not the person who keeps telling you why they're the underdog and they never can get ahead because they're the underdog and the deck stacked against them and, always want to go back to that. Forget about that. That's in the rear view. That's in the past. There's nothing noble about being a professional victim. All right, you're going to love this. Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff just arrested. Talking with my hands too much. Talking with my hands. No, this is his former chief of staff arrested by the FBI, charged with bank fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to defraud the United States, which includes funneling campaign money for personal use. Whoopsie. That's not good. Corruption scandal. Apparently, federal prosecutors in the Biden DOJ wanted Williamson to implicate Newsom in the criminal activity. What did they know about Newsom that we don't know? LA Times reports this. A second source with knowledge of the case who is not authorized to speak publicly said federal investigators tried to pressure Williamson into implicating Newsom, but that Williamson told them she had no knowledge of any wrongdoing by the governor and she refused to cooperate. That's pretty interesting. I mean, this was the Biden DOJ. What was the Biden DOJ doing? Was there something and they just needed her on the record? Or did they not have anything and they were trying to bring Newsom down in case he was going to run for president or something? I don't know, but that does not look good. All right, let's talk quickly about the January 6th pipe bomber, where we're seeing this forensic analysis based on the way that this woman walked. And you've got Julie Kelly and others saying, no, this is kind of ridiculous. If that's all, by the way, I have a Cash App contribution from Asia Carey, who says, hit me again, Ike. and put some stank on it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the $5 via Cash App. If you'd like to contribute, you can do so via Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com. IkeReport.com. Mostly Penny says, God, family, country is what Charlie Kirk said. David Singh says, if only Fetterman was wearing one of Jeffrey's sombreros. Also saying, when you don't train a generation, you encourage them to rely on the system. Jay Pope says, great job. Keep it up. Thank you, sir. Over on Instagram. Okay. Let's see. All right. Do me a favor, like and share this broadcast. Like and share this broadcast. If you're watching on X, heart the post and repost. I mean, this is the delusion that's in. So we're streaming on YouTube now in the portrait mode. So it's bringing these different people, which reminds me of TikTok a little bit. Charlie Kirk was a racist, and now his wife is porking the staff. I mean, you people are deranged. You're nasty. You need to look in the mirror. Is this the life you want to lead? Is this the person you want to be? Filled with hatred, filled with malignment and deception and lies. You know that's not true. If you've done any bit of research, and if you think that's true, then go get educated. It was just terrible. Terrible. Okay. Now, let's go back to what Dan Bongino has said. So you got Thomas Massie, who, regarding this pipe bomb, if you want to see the information on the pipe bomb story, go back to Tuesday's show this week on 11/11. Thomas Massie put this out on X where he said, I received this troubling letter from the attorney representing the most recent FBI whistleblower regarding the January 6th pipe bomb investigation. Just a reminder to Kash Patel, in case this letter is warranted, federal law prevents retaliation against whistleblowers. Okay, so there's some kind of allegation related to, I got a $20 contribution from Chad. Thank you, Chad. Chad says, keep up the good fight. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Thank you for the contribution. Thank you even more for your comment. Appreciate that. If you want to support what we're doing to cover our costs, you can do so via Cash App or Venmo. And those links are set up right now at IkeReport.com. So this letter, on November 11th, the U.S. Congress received a protected disclosure related to the January 6th pipe bomber investigation. It was conducted by the FBI's Washington field office. Today, the leadership of the FBI's Washington field office notified its management that there would be a management meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. It was obvious from the information provided that the meeting is an attempt to identify the FBI whistleblower who made the protected disclosure to Congress. So this letter from this attorney to Thomas Massie said, hey, FBI is going to hold this meeting tomorrow. They're going to try to find out the whistleblower. Thomas Massie tweets it out. Hey, I got this letter and federal law says you can't do this. Dan Bongino, the assistant director of the FBI, directly tweets or puts this tweet out for Thomas Massie, congressman from Kentucky. He said, basically, when Director Patel and I entered on duty in our leadership positions in the FBI, we had our hands full. We're happy to be part of the present team, still are. Despite the multitude of challenges, one of our first initiatives was to aggressively pursue a new strategy to investigate the January 6th pipe bomb terror attack. We brought in new personnel to take a look at the case. We flew in police officers. I mean, I didn't know this. Okay, so this is good to know related to this January 6th investigation. So when the new regime came in, they brought in new personnel. They flew in police officers and detectives as task force officers to review the FBI's work. They conducted multiple internal reviews. They held countless in-person and SVTC meetings and dramatically increased investigative resources and the public reward probably is what it needs to be for information in the case. Okay, so apparently Dan Bongino spoke to Thomas Massie. When I spoke to you yesterday after 8 a.m., I offered you an in-person brief on our work. We spoke for 10 minutes. I called you back a bit after 7:30 p.m. to again make that offer. You didn't answer and have not called me back. And in the meantime, then, Massie went on X to throw a BS tweet bomb, as Dan Bongino calls it. So here's the screenshots of his calls with Thomas Massie. So obviously, it looks like Thomas Massie is grandstanding again and doing this to try to get points rather than handling the situation. That's just what it appears to be. That's what it appears to be. But, you know, the division on the right on some of this stuff is just, it's like, while you're focused on some of this stuff and seeing each other as enemies, you're not getting things done that need to be done. That doesn't help your chances for midterms. You're not advancing the Trump agenda. We're, not seeing unity and the strength that comes from unity, the momentum that comes from unity. We're not seeing it. We got people divided on, this January 6th stuff now, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and it has all kinds of infighting going on. You got the Epstein situation. You've got healthcare. You've got all kinds of, we know the Democrats are imploding because we saw them call for the head of Chuck Schumer 2 days ago. Then the Epstein stuff comes out and then nobody's talking about it, right? But the Democrats are imploding. There's no clear front runner for 2028. There's no leadership. There's no ownership of the past mistakes for radical positions like men competing in women's sports or an open border. They've never owned that and taken responsibility and said, okay, and now we're going to go forward. So the left is totally in shambles and they're running around like chickens with their head cut off and they're trying to eat each other, by the way. But then you have over on the right, you have all this division over things that, they're not going to change anyone's life one way or the other. The Epstein files, sure. We want the Epstein files out there. Just put them out there, be done with it. But it's not going to change anyone's life. Could it build trust? Accountability certainly would. But accountability on a lot of things would build trust. But it's not going to change your life. The Israel-Hamas conflict, is that going to change your life? No. If you don't live in Israel or the Gaza Strip, is that going to even affect you? Now you could argue, well, it's our tax money. Okay, got it. But again, it has nothing to do with the agenda for what's going on here in America. Right? January 6th pipe bomber. Great. Get accountability. Yes. But being divided and infighting over these things, let's get on with the agenda and continue, because what we need to be doing is figuring out ways to stimulate this economy. President Trump has done a lot of things to set the table around the globe, to bring deals from other countries, and some people like that, some people don't. You've got gas prices down, but there are a ton of things. The prices still need to go down. The stimulation of the economy still needs to happen. No, I'm not advocating for a tariff dividend to be sent to people. As long as we're in debt, I don't advocate for anything like that to happen. Once we're out of debt and you want to send dividends, have at it. I'd rather just have more of my money on the front end than pay in and have the government keep it and then give me a dividend back. No, as long as we have debt, we're basically giving dividends on borrowed money. But okay. But stimulate the economy, get the housing market, get the housing in a better place from an affordability standpoint, get the supply up, do what needs to be done to incentivize those things. Obviously, the Fed rate needs to come down. That would help a lot of these things. And I predict that once it does go down substantially, then you will see an explosion. You've got to get the Chinese tariffs solidified. Obviously, there's a case going on at the Supreme Court, so that's thrown a monkey wrench in that. But we need to be focusing specifically and not fighting, but specifically focusing on ways to create prosperity for the American people. That's where 90%, I would argue, of the effort, attention, and energy needs to go to is how do we create prosperity for the American people? Some people call it affordability, whatever you want to call it. That's where the prime focus needs to go. All right. That is going to wrap today's show. But first, we must play today's Triggered Liberal.
It's time for today's Triggered Liberal.
All right, I haven't actually watched this. I pulled it right before we went on. Fort Lewis College professor, let me put this on the screen here. Fort Lewis College professor David Kozak had an unhinged meltdown after a TPUSA chapter was approved on campus. He called conservatives Nazis and flipped off students in a deranged tirade.
Go on, fascists. Go on, Nazi lovers.
Don't engage.
Come on, Nazis.
No. Let's be kindness.
Come on,
Show them with kindness.
Come on,
Don't take a straight. Come on. Let's be calm. There's no need for that. Okay, there's no need for that. We haven't said anything to you. Thank you.
You're a pleasant human being. Fuck the Nazis. All I can say is such a pleasant person. Jesus loves you. Oh, he does. And he loves Nazis too.
All right, so the guy's telling him Jesus loves him. The student, it's a student, and he's like, oh, he loves Nazis, huh? Yeah? And so this guy just couldn't handle it, going crazy. He's a professor. This guy's teaching students. Has an unhinged meltdown there. Sorry, buddy. The college this week unanimously approved this TPUSA chapter despite your unhinged
Fuck the Nazis.
tirade against students. You're mocking God. I mean, you're going, look at these kids. They're doing nothing.
Our God loves everybody. God loves everybody. I hope you have a very blessed day, sir.
They're being nice. Right in the face of this guy being an absolute troll. He's supposed to be the adult in the room.
Yeah.
And these are kids. These are students.
Okay. Freedom of speech one.
Okay, good. I'm glad you fascist lovers, Nazi lovers have a great. Lois, have a great night.
All right. So this is what we're dealing with in a lot of these colleges, these unhinged leftist professors. Sorry, buddy. They got approved.
By the table, there has been voted 6 yeas and 0 nays. So by unanimous consent, Turning Point USA has been reached our sodium status and approved by Fort Lewis College.
In your face, buddy. Unanimously, they are allowed to have a TPUSA chapter, even though you went nuts. You're a professor. You're supposed to be teaching these kids, and you are nothing but a deranged loser, which is why you are today's triggered.
It's time for today's Triggered Liberal.
All right, that's it for today's show. Thanks for being here. Lord willing, back Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. Follow me at Ike Wingate on X. To the trolls, we loved you. We hope you had a wonderful afternoon being exposed to some actual truth. And for the rest of you, I love you as well. And remember, it's not time to back down. It's time to double down because the truth is worth it.
Rate, subscribe, and leave a review. It's how we get the word out amidst the chaos. Thanks for listening to The Ike Wingate Show.